In the cradle of rivers, where the Tigris and Euphrates braided the land into gold, Babylon rose not merely as a city, but as a heartbeat in the chest of the world, pulsing with ambition, pride, and the intoxicating thrill of human mastery. It was a place where the first stones dared to touch the sky, where clay and sweat became towers that scraped the heavens, and where every footstep echoed the boldness of human spirit. The ziggurats were not just temples, they were declarations, monuments to minds that sought to trap eternity in brick and shadow. The people of Babylon spoke a language alive with commerce, cunning, and the music of mathematics, counting the stars and the flow of rivers, etching laws not only in clay but into the very rhythm of life. To those who followed the Abrahamic path, Babylon became more than a marvel. It was a mirror reflecting the human heart at its most daring and defiant. Pride here was not silent, it moved, twisted, whispered through the alleys, leapt from the tops of towers, and sank into the hearts of men. Prophets and scribes carried tales of a city where morality bowed to power, where ambition sprouted unchecked like weeds through reason, and where the boundary between mortal and divine blurred until the air itself seemed heavy with rebellion. If you find these ideas fascinating, take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to explore more ancient knowledge. Babylon was the stage of defiance, the crucible of temptation, where the soul danced with the fire of knowledge before it could understand the weight of consequence. In Babylon, language itself became a labyrinth. Words multiplied, meanings shifted, and speech both connected and ensnared. The Tower of Babel rose from mud and clay not only as an architectural triumph but as a monument to the desire to reach beyond limits, to grasp the heavens as one plucks a fruit from a tree. For those following Abraham, this was audacity teetering on hubris, a city whose very design whispered defiance against the natural order, where human cleverness flirted dangerously with the sacred. Science, logic, and observation tell another truth. Babylon was a cradle of astronomy, mathematics, law, and engineering. It charted the stars, measured lunar cycles, and divided time into units that still guide the world. Yet, to those who heard the stories of Sinai and the wilderness beyond, such brilliance carried shadows. Knowledge without reverence, power without restraint, order without humility, these were seeds of what they called evil, patterns of shadow that could consume the soul as easily as they guided it. The city's magnificence became intertwined with temptation. Babylon showed that to build, to measure, to know, is also to risk the bending of spirit, that human pride can summon storms reason cannot calm. Energy moves through places, through intentions, and Babylon's energy was raw and concentrated, focused, untempered by fear or awe. In its markets, courts, and temples, people learned to manipulate not just matter but influence, bending collective will to their designs. For Abraham's followers, this was the first great experiment in rebellion, a city whose aura radiated temptation, whose stones seemed to hum with intoxicating knowledge. Here was the first theater of human ambition elevated to divine mimicry, the first city where minds felt godlike and hearts forgot humility. Legends say that Babylon birthed not only trade and art but chaos itself. Kings who challenged the heavens, priests who manipulated gods and men alike, merchants who prized profit over compassion, all moved together in a rhythm that Abrahamic storytellers could not ignore. The city became a symbol of what goes wrong when intellect outruns morality, when creation is worshipped instead of the Creator, when human flame burns too brightly, too recklessly. It was not merely a city of stone and river, it was a crucible of consciousness, a mirror in which the dangers of unchecked desire and cunning shone with ruthless clarity. Babylon's story whispers through time, in visions and cautionary tales. To some, it is wonder incarnate, a testament to human achievement. To Abrahamic eyes, it is the first laboratory of temptation, the stage where pride and cunning performed their most dangerous, seductive dance. Satan here is not merely a being but a principle, the embodiment of rebellion, distraction, and the intoxicating pull of skill and knowledge untethered from reverence. Babylon was the city where this archetype first took root, where every street pulsed with the haunting question, how far will a soul go when it believes itself unbound? The rivers still flow, the ruins still stand, and the dust carries whispers of that ancient pulse. Babylon became the eternal symbol of human temptation, the first city where the mind, untamed, tasted both power and peril. It is a story of towers and shadows, of stars counted and hearts tested, of creation danced with arrogance, of knowledge that could illuminate or entrap. It is a city both real and mythic, historical and eternal, where the world first glimpsed the fragile danger of being human, where the first shadow of rebellion, the archetype of Satan, was etched into conscience. In the interplay of ambition, knowledge, and energy, Babylon teaches that civilization carries seeds of both glory and ruin. Every brick, every inscription, every calculation testifies to human potential, every act of pride, ambition, or rebellion reveals the shadow within. Abrahamic tradition names it the first city of Satan, not for material evil, but because it revealed this eternal truth: greatness without humility, knowledge without conscience, power without restraint, always births shadows. Babylon is a mirror of the human spirit, the stage for the eternal drama of temptation and choice, a story echoing in every heart that dares to rise too high without grounding. In its rise and fall, its brilliance and its warning, Babylon endures, a symbol, a heartbeat in the history of consciousness, a place where human minds first tasted mastery and shadow alike, a city whose story remains etched into rivers, ruins, and collective memory, forever questioning, teaching, haunting. Here begins the lesson: to build is to risk, to know is to be tempted, to rise without reverence is to walk in the shadow of the first city that dared speak back to the heavens and hear its own echo as a warning and a challenge. This is Babylon, the first city of ambition, the first city of shadow, the first city where the archetype of Satan found a home in the human imagination, where every stone still whispers of the eternal dance between light, knowledge, and the perils of pride. In the dawn of civilization, when the world was young and the rivers still whispered secrets to the sun, Babylon rose from the mud like a heartbeat made visible. It was more than a city, it was a living testament to human ambition, a place where stone and sweat converged into monuments daring the heavens themselves. Towers of clay scraped the sky, casting long shadows over bustling streets where voices rose in a symphony of trade, negotiation, and unbridled desire. Every corner, every alley, carried the rhythm of human audacity, a pulse of pride so potent that it seemed almost alive, almost conscious, almost divine. The ziggurats were not mere temples, they were declarations of aspiration, ladders not just of brick but of spirit, climbing toward the infinite. Babylon's people spoke a language of cunning and commerce, of mathematics and law, of rhythm and calculation. They measured the stars, charted the river's flow, and built structures that bound the immaterial into the tangible, capturing not only the laws of nature but the imagination of those who would walk their streets for millennia. Every act of creation carried the thrill of mastery and the tremor of danger, for here, in the crucible of ambition, humanity first flirted with the power of the divine. To the observers who walked the desert paths of Abraham, Babylon was more than grandeur. It was a mirror reflecting the human heart at its boldest and most defiant. Pride roamed the streets like a living spirit, twisting in alleys, leaping from marketplace to tower, seeping into the minds of men. Stories carried by prophets and scribes spoke of a place where morality bowed before power, where ambition grew like wild vines, and where the line between mortal and God blurred until the very air felt charged with rebellion. Babylon was the stage upon which the earliest acts of defiance were performed, the first laboratory of temptation, where souls danced with knowledge before understanding its consequences. In this city, language itself became a labyrinth. Words multiplied, meanings shifted, and communication both bound and liberated. The Tower of Babel rose as an emblem of audacity, a monument to humanity's desire to touch the heavens, to claim the infinite as one would pluck a fruit from a branch. To those who would become the followers of Abraham, this ambition was no mere pride, it was audacity brushing against the divine, a dangerous flirtation between human cleverness and sacred law. Every brick, every inscription, every measurement seemed infused with a subtle challenge, a whisper of rebellion against limits, a subtle invitation to test the boundaries of what was permitted. Yet Babylon's brilliance was inseparable from its shadows. It was the cradle of science, law, and astronomy, a place where stars were charted, cycles calculated, and time divided in ways that continue to guide humanity. Knowledge flowed like the rivers themselves, powerful, precise, intoxicating. But to those who carried the stories of Sinai, this brilliance bore a warning. Knowledge without reverence, power without restraint, structure without humility, these were seeds of shadow. The same streets that taught mastery could ensnare the soul. Every calculation, every tower, every law carried a lesson. Greatness carries peril, and pride unmoored from conscience can summon storms that reason alone cannot tame. The energy of Babylon was concentrated, almost tangible. In its markets, courts, and temples, people bent not only matter but influence. The human will, sharp and untempered, moved like a current through the city, shaping lives and destinies. Those who followed Abraham's path recognized this as the first true experiment in rebellion, a city alive with the hum of temptation, a place where ambition and cleverness flirted with the sacred, and where the heart could forget its humility as it reached for the divine. Babylon became the first stage upon which the mind felt godlike, and the first theater where human ambition dared to mirror the heavens themselves. From Babylon came art, trade, innovation, and chaos. Kings sought to rival the heavens, priests manipulated both gods and men, merchants prized gain over compassion. The city pulsed with a rhythm of human audacity so powerful that it could not be ignored. It became a symbol, a cautionary mirror showing what happens when intellect outruns conscience, when creation is revered above the Creator, when the flame of human pride burns unchecked. The city itself seemed alive, a witness to the delicate balance between power and morality, brilliance and peril. Whispers of Babylon traveled across deserts, carried by prophets and storytellers. To some, it was a wonder, a testament to human ingenuity. To Abrahamic eyes, it was the first laboratory of temptation. Here pride and cunning danced their earliest dangerous dance, and in these streets, the archetype of rebellion, the shadow we call Satan, first found its form. Babylon whispered a haunting question to all who listened: how far will a soul dare to rise when it believes itself unbound?